In the West, a New Year is a celebration. But in China, we don't celebrate the New Year, we defeat it. Welcome to the single largest human movement on Earth. Most of the people call this the Lunar New Year, but the name itself is misleading. You might have felt the glitch this year. It's mid-February. Valentine's Day is already gone. Why does the New Year for Chinese feel so late this time? Think about it. If this calendar truly followed only the moon, the day would drift through every season, summer, autumn, winter, just like the Ramadan does. But it doesn't. It stays locked to the end of the winter every single year. No worries, I will reveal the reason behind that later in the video. But first, let me show you what the Chinese people are actually fighting each year. In Chinese, we don't say celebrating New Year, we say 过年. And 过 doesn't mean to party, it means to cross the threshold to survive. Because in the oldest legend, Nian wasn't a date on calendar. Nian was a monster. Every winter, at the turn of the year, it came the Nian beast. It moved from village to village, eating crops, devouring livestock. No one knew how to stop it. Until one winter, an old man fought back. He covered the door in red, he lit a fire in the square, and he threw bamboo into the flames until it cracked and popped like gunfire. The beast reached the edge of the village. It saw the fire, it heard explosions, and it turned back into the dark. I guess that is why we repeat the ritual today. Firecrackers aren't just noise, they're acoustics weaponry. Lanterns are flame defense. Red banners are shields. Now, you might think that's just a charming myth. But look at the word itself, because the word goes much deeper than the monster. Look at this. This is the word Nian, in China oldest writing system. It doesn't look like a date. It looks like a person bending under a heavy harvest. A year isn't just time passing, but a weight on your back. And the word for age, 岁. That shape isn't abstract. It's an axe. Time is a blade. It cuts the grain and it cuts life. Every year that passes, the axe swings again. So 过年, surviving the year is a declaration. It means you outran the blade, and that is worth celebrating with fire, noise, and blood-red light. Today, I'm taking you inside this wall. We're going to bribe a god, cross an ocean of people, and eat our way to fortune. The monster is still out there, but we have a plan. Before we fight the monster outside, we have to deal with the spy inside the house. This is the kitchen god. Think elf on the shelf, but with an actual federal authority. He's not a toy, he's a celestial surveillance camera installed by the Jade Emperor, the CEO of the universe in Chinese myth. If you played Wukong, yeah, that guy. He is the source of will of heaven that defines the game's entire conflict. And he is watching everything. Did you waste food? Gossip too much? Slack off. He's taking notes. 1 week before the new year, he goes upstairs to fire his performance reviews on you. And that report determines your luck for the entire next year. So how do you handle the snitch? Do you pray? Do you confess? No, you bribe him. This is mouth candy. It is extraordinarily sticky, and we smear it directly in the kitchen god's mouth. The logic is brutally pragmatic. Best case, he's so happy he only says sweet things about you. Realistic case, his mouth is physically glued shut. We have always had a very particular relationship with our gods, not reference from a safe distance, something closer to a working arrangement. You watch over us, we keep your altar clean, and your mouth full of candy. Everyone gets what they need. So spy neutralized. Now the battlefield is 扫城, the great sweeping. In Chinese, the word for dust sounds exactly like the word for the past. So we aren't just cleaning dirt. We're evicting the last 12 months. Every regrets, every failure, every argument swept out the door. And you have to finish before the midnight. Because once the new year hits, you cannot sweep. If you do, you will sweep your new luck right out with the dust. So you can clean like your life depends on it. Because remember the axe? Time is coming. We bribe it the spy, we clean the blaze zone, we don't wait for the new year to find us. Instead, we go out and meet it. Now, the real test begins. Picture this. Every single person in North America, Europe, and Russia deciding to travel home in the same week. That is 春运, 3 billion individual journeys. The largest annual migration on Earth. Every year without fail. But why? It's 2026, we have Zoom, we have video calls that put a face right in front of you from 10,000 miles away. So why endure the crush, the delays, the overnight buses on mountain roads, just to eat one dinner? Because in this culture, home isn't just a place on the map. Home is a living thing, and a living thing had to be fed. A Tang poet wrote it 1,000 years ago. The year ends tonight, and the one who is 10,000 miles away has not yet home. That feeling hasn't changed. We run this sculptment because we're terrified of the alternative. If you cannot sit at a round table on the New Year's Eve, if your seat is empty, you feel in the most private and painful way like you have been stripped from the human record. Not just lonely, something quieter than that. Like time keep moving and your name was in the frame. Chinese even have a specific word for it. 乡愁. Chou doesn't just mean longing. It's kind of sorrow that has already started to make peace without being permanent. That is what 春运 is actually a war against. Not traffic, not the cost as ticket, that feeling. The one with no clean English translation. And this is the empty chair. In many traditional homes, even if you can make it, the family still seat your place. A bowl, a pair of chopsticks, waiting. They speak to your empty spots and tell you, we keep your seat, come back when you can. The gesture isn't grief, it's a statement of certainty. You are still counted here, your place hasn't been given away. After all the journeys and efforts, finally, the reunion dinner, 年夜饭. But nothing on this table is accidental. In Chinese, we don't eat food. We love eat puns. Take the fish, 鱼, sounds exactly like surplus. So the fish is a prayer of abundance. And critically, you never finish it. You have to left some on the plate. If you eat it all, you leave zero surplus for the year ahead. Zero margin, you have eaten your own safety net. And dumplings, 饺子, look at the shape. They mirror the gold ingots. You're literally swallowing money. Manifestation through the digestive system. But before anyone eats, there's one more guest. In this culture, death is not a final goodbye. The ancestors are still family. They sit invisible, but never empty. We serve their food first, we pour their drink first, because we are the end of very long chain, and the people who build that chain deserve a seat at the table. They made possible. And now, the main event, 红包, the red envelopes. In the West, we usually wrap gifts, but in China, we give this. And to an outsider, handling over cash might feel transactional and cold even. But you have to understand where this has come from. For many elders, this isn't just spending money. It is the accumulation of months of saving. If you think about it, it's a very specific kind of love. The kind that doesn't ask to be recognized. But here is the reason why it has to be money, and the reason goes straight back into the monster. The Chinese name for it is 压岁钱. Ya means to suppress, to hold down, and sui sounds like year. But it holds a double meaning. It also sounds like sui, a demon. The original red envelopes weren't paper. They were copper coins. The money wasn't currency. It was a shield. The metal was there to weigh down the evil spirits, to physically suppress the darkness. Every time a grandmother hands this to a grandchild, she is technically still fighting the monster. She's saying, I'm buying your safety. But brings us to the ritual of acceptance. It's only the moment in human civilization where people fight in this herd over who gets it to give their money away. Dinner's done, tables clean, and you think finally time to sleep. No, this is Shou, keeping watch over the year. The monster feared noise, so we give it noise. The monster feared light, so we burn the darkness away. We do not quietly into the new year. We going loud to prove we are still here. And look at the doors. 春联. Centuries ago, there were peachwood tables. Over time, the wood become paper. The spells become poetry. But the function never changed. The magic just became beautiful. Now, I promised you something at the very beginning about the name Lunar New Year. If this whole festival follows the lunar calendar, we have a problem. Ramadan moves 11 days earlier every year, but the Chinese New Year, it never drifts. Why? Because the Chinese calendar isn't lunar. It's Luni-solar, guided by the moon and the sun. Yin and Yang, two forces holding the year in place. So when you call it Lunar New Year, you are only telling half of the story. And 2026, this is the year of Fire Horse. Speed, fire, and the refusal to stand still. If last few years we have felt like carrying a heavy habit with no rewards, the Fire Horse ignites everything it touches. In the logic of 5 elements, this heat creates gold. The fire will burn the husk away and leave only the grain. So if you're starting something new, if you're chasing a dream that feels impossible in the cold, the friction in the past is gone. The fire horse doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for a gate to open. It breaks the gate, just run. So run with it. 新年快乐